Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 8th, 2022 Effingham Board of Selectmen's meeting. As we get started, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, in the folder, make a motion to approve the selectmen's minutes from February 1, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor, for aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 3rd, 2022.
Second that.
All those in favor, for aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to pass the minutes of January 27, 2022.
Second that.
All those in favor, for aye.
Aye.
Selectmen's meeting non-public minutes, January 27, 2022. I'll make a motion to approve those.
Second.
All those in favor, for aye.
Aye.
All right, and the manifest. Make a motion to approve the manifest dated February 10, 2022 in the amount of $46,558.40.
Second that.
All those in favor, for aye.
Aye.
And 24 grand of that 46 was related to the historic town hall project, which will be coming out of the monies that have already been set aside for that. So that's not coming directly out of the town coffers. Review of the mail. There was a report in there, the annual report for the Carroll County. We have that. We also have received copies of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District annual report. I know we have a few copies available, so if people would like those, we can potentially get you one. And we received the annual report from the Northeast Resource Recovery Association, NRRA, as we refer to it, for the town of Effingham for last year. So we, in the category of portable electronic devices, we recycled 4.29 tons. For glass, the way we are pulling it apart, it was 36.09 tons. And scrap metal was 30.88 tons, and tires are 2.23 tons. So we have quite a bit of recycling activity going on, and congratulate folks for being part of that. There was also a newsletter in the folder for the Green Mountain Conservation Commission. From Green Mountain Conservation. Okay, Administrator.
The 737 has been preliminary approved by DRA. There was one change in the wording on the Green Mountain Road, 2.4 miles, because the encumbered funds have already been assigned to it. She had me take it out of the wording. So the wording for the warrant article reflects 500,000, not 650. And the description I put in for the voters explains that the other 250 from unassigned fund balance and 250 from taxation. So we have full green lights. What happens in the system is you get green, and yeah, I got rid of all our yellows, made all the corrections. The other corrections she had me make were, for example, I had put ARPA funds under miscellaneous revenue, and she had me change that to federal revenue. Okay. So minor changes that are somewhat invisible to the voters.
Good.
So that covers that. I have 391A requests that have come in that I need to respond to. They came in yesterday and last night. And the town report is in good shape. A draft should be going to Minuteman later today. And we'll see about that.
And we'll have copies available prior to the RSA required time frame for the public. Good,
yes.
Thank you.
And I am on vacation next week. I wanted to remind you that Tuesday will be the opening bids for the Bailey Road Bridge. I'm not sure if HEB is going to plan to be here or not.
Don't know.
I believe they were,
Okay.
because he asked if we could open them at 9 first thing instead of
Right.
making everybody wait.
Okay. Yeah. So that's happening next week. That's all I have.
Okay. Lenny?
Did you get the report from Susan from the historical district?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of the tires on the recycling, we did 2.23 tons. That would have been more than that if we.
Come and pick up what we have, yes.
I was thinking the same.
Yeah, we must have another ton sitting there now. I'm waiting on a call back from the plastic barrel company. I called them last week and they were gonna try and track it down. The guy I talked to said, well, that's gonna be another department. So he says, I'll send them an email. I said, well, I could call back and ask for that department. He said, no, we'll just email, track them down and we'll get back to you, but I haven't heard anything.
It
And-
implied they had sent them because they asked the survey of how we liked them.
Yeah. I like the fact that it costs twice as much to get them shipped as it did to buy them.
Right.
Clean harbors, nothing,
Nothing, no.
okay, well, but just hold off because they can't get
You
to
can get to it anyway. Okay.
wait for that. I did meet with the power company, Bailey Road, talked to a couple options there. I think the best thing to do, the cheapest way to do it is coordinate everything and do a planned outage and kill it and work around it and then turn it back on with the crane operator. So we'll wait and see how the bids and who's responsible for it, but and we'll have to call Ron and get bucket loader in here for elections, so that people can have some room. Do you want to touch base with him, or you want me to call him?
I might prefer to hear from you since I've called 3 times.
Oh, all right. Well, we don't need it done today, but I know Kevin was out in the loader
Yeah.
cleaning up a bunch of stuff, so
Yeah, I believe Susan would like to have around the flagpole pretty clear for the people who are campaigning election year.
yeah,
A word I wasn't familiar.
okay. So I'll call Ron, and get that on the schedule. I'll get right this minute.
Okay. Audrey, do we hear anything back from Primex on their review of the wording for the
No,
road
let
contract?
me, I'll follow up with her today.
Okay, all right. Not expecting much, but we do need to have it back. In the student validation process, have we,
I haven't heard from her either.
okay. Dave, is that one where we gotta chase her, or can we rely on her to deliver that?
We end up picking it up usually.
Yeah,
Okay.
usually 2 or
Okay,
3 emails.
okay, good,
She'll let Audrey know and then arrange to have it picked up.
okay. All right. I've got a draft of the bid spec advertisement for the powder post beetle damage repairs at the library. I want to get that out this week. So I'll work with Chris Garcia to make sure we get the right dates in there, and I'll send it over to you and we'll put it up in the Conway Sun and we'll start that process. And we talked last week, but I didn't see it. Did that legal breakdown, did you send that to me? Because I didn't get it. Okay, if you would, thank you. In the transfer station policy update, I know we mentioned solar panels last week, and I got thinking about it in the last few days. I think we probably ought to pass the upgrades that we currently have in there through a public hearing on it. Because the more I'm thinking about it, that solar panel discussion is going to be a little drawn out because of the cost related to it. If we can. And
On that, I've been thinking about that. I don't think we should bother taking it.
I think that's the way it's going to come down, but I think we should go through the process
Yeah.
and look at it and talk about it. But the fear I have is there's no way we're going to be able to come up with a price
Right.
that and it comes anywhere near covering our
It
costs.
goes on weight and that's by scale.
Yep.
I
So,
think we
yes,
should
but
just
we
shy
need to-
away from that.
we need to take a look at it anyway, formally. The other thing we can do this morning is I reviewed all the bids from last week with the Green Mountain Road project, 2.4 miles. The select board and the budget committee have agreed we're only gonna put the 2.4 mile warrant article in there. We're not putting the 1.1. And I didn't make a motion. I mean, I've reviewed it and R&D's the low bidder. Do you have any issues or questions or any reason why we can't approve it and start working on it?
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion to approve the R&D paving contract for 2.4 miles of Green Mountain Road pending approval at the town meeting under the warrant article in the amount of $487,540. All those in favor, Fuller, aye? Thank you. I had a call last week. I was invited to a call by town legal counsel with the zoning enforcement officer and the health officer to listen in on a discussion around how to make that whole thing a better working relationship and who's responsible for what and things like that. So there's gonna be more follow-up with that. And it will probably necessitate creating a frequently asked questions document to help educate the public. A one pager, nothing detailed. And adding some additional language to the RV permits and the building permit applications to really strengthen the language around the zoning enforcement and the health officer enforcement. And Matt is actually going to schedule coming up here to meet with the Board of Selectmen, health officer, zoning, town administrator after the town meeting. So I asked him to kind of keep that in the back of his schedule to come up here and sit down and talk about responsibilities of the select board, responsibilities of the health officer, responsibilities of zoning enforcement officer. So, and basically we'll begin draft work on that legal language for the changes. Were we able to schedule any date with the moderator and Deanna and everybody for just kind of reviewing where we are going to be with police chief, fire chief, but the day of voting?
No, not yet. I
Okay.
asked Susan yesterday what her preferred date might be, what works well for
Okay.
her. She is working with Deanna to, I'm looking for a calendar to do the meet the candidate night on Tuesday, the 22nd. So I don't know if we can do it prior to that. We are in the process of measuring the booths and things like that right now, so we have a good floor plan.
Okay, so just the reason for the question, folks, particularly for the tape and people dialing in. The voting for March town meeting will be held here at the town office, the municipal town office, and it's actually going to take place in the room we're sitting in right now. So there's got to be a discussion around process flows, parking, a whole bunch of things, and get everybody on the same level base, so we know what's going to happen that particular day. So we're just going to get together and have a meeting, and there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes right now and discussion around what we can do and how we can do it and whatever. We'll have that information at that meeting too.
Deanna just said the candidates night will be Wednesday, the 23rd at 5:30.
Meet the candidates night, Wednesday, February 23rd at 5:30. Good.
Is that for everybody or just the contested races?
Just the contested races, which I believe is the 1-year BOS and the budget committee.
Which is the same thing we did last year. Okay, that's all I had on mine. Under announcements, there is a budget committee public hearing tonight at 5 p.m. here in this building, in this room. And this will be the last chance to voice opinions around warrant articles and budgets and everything else before they lock down for the town meeting and voting.
So it's 9:15,
5:15, I'm sorry. Thank you, Dave.
5 o'clock is the budget.
Okay, so again, public hearing tonight, 5:15 p.m. Here in this building. Under new business, we have to annually approve the investment policy statement. We discovered last year we were a little deficient as a town in having the appropriate document in place. It has to be by RSA approved annually, doesn't require new signatures, it just requires board minutes saying we've approved it. So I'll make a motion to approve the Effingham investment policy statement for 2022.
Second it.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
All right, we got that one. The department updates. The police department, Chief Duchesne notified me this morning because of everything that's going on out there in the roadway world with the storm that he would like to postpone arriving this morning. And I said, not a problem. Zoning enforcement, were you able to get a hold of Rebecca?
I left her a message and texted her, so I don't anticipate she will be in.
Okay. So we also have, where the CEO is going to drive down here special just for a presentation this morning. We'll put it off to another week. And there was a fire report in the documents here this morning. It looks like 28% of the call, 20, was it 28% or 28 calls were daytime?
63%. I don't remember the number.
Okay.
63%.
All right. Hold on 1 minute. See if we can find. Not that one. Okay, all right, so in the month of January 2022, there were 45 calls for service for the month, 28 during the daytime, which amounts to 63% of the calls were handled by daytime shift. So again, for people that are thinking about the decision we made last year to have part-time coverage, it looks like almost every single month since we started that, we've been over 50%, and the numbers seem to be trending up a little bit into the higher 50s to low 60% with that particular coverage. Okay. Public comment. Mr. Garcelle.
Question related to what you just talked about. What happened before? I mean, if 60% of our calls are coming in during the day, were they just unanswered by?
No. They were answered, but a lot of it was mutual aid and
Mutual aid, so sometimes
and not
it's-
our people. I mean, most of the time we're staffed with EMTs on our trucks or a higher level. So particularly on this side of the south side of town, on the eastern side of town, it's a lot faster for us to get there when they're traveling from Center Effingham. When you actually look at the calls, because we're getting in the reports between from Carroll County Dispatch, here are the times we were toned and got there. Here are the times the ambulance was toned and got there, and you look down. In most cases, we're beating the ambulance because of the location. If it's on the north side of town, on the other side of Green Mountain, typically the ambulance will get there before the fire department, but basically anything on this side, and I mean south of Center Effingham is pretty much our people will get there first.
Thank you.
So, anything else? Good.
We do
Mark?
have, oh, sorry, do have people online.
Okay, well, let's take online then.
Okay, it's in the chat box. Leanne Leonard asked me to relay a conversation we had about the plowing and how it's deteriorated a little bit. She's on Plantation Road and was not able to get to the school bus this morning because of the berm at the end of her road. So I did call Evans Brothers about that, and he was gonna go out. He had 2 trucks broken down, but you know, she said it definitely hasn't been as good this winter.
A lot of that's due to the type of snow and rain and sleet we're getting and the weather. So when it's nice, fluffy, it's easy to move. When it's wet, you get broken equipment and it takes longer. The other reason we've done it in delaying it is when we know there's going to be sleet and freezing rain, it's better to have snow on the roads than not. And when I came by Plantation and 153 this morning, there was a small berm there from the state plow. And I noticed people were driving over it. So
Okay, in the chat box, she said she would like to speak.
Yep. Go ahead.
It hadn't been plantation.
No, there's a lot of them have been plowed. They were out plowing now.
It
So,
was a 2.5 foot.
Okay, she's live, so we can let her go
across
ahead.
Winter Road too.
all right, Leanne, you're live.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think my biggest issue that I have is that my kids have to make it to school. And I understand that the road, we can't predict the weather. However, if I need to get my kids to the school bus safely, how are we going to make this possible?
I'll ask Lenny to speak with. I'll ask Lenny to speak with the road contractor, because in the contract, it does mention clearance for school-related activity and the expectations. And we'll make sure we're
Okay.
following that.
Okay, and they do get to the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning. Today was a 2-hour delay, so it made it 8 o'clock. However, at 6 o'clock in the morning, it has not been up to par this winter.
No, I mean, my road, they plowed like 5 minutes before I left. So it's one of those things where they're beginning to get to the side roads off the main roads. They typically
Okay,
will do Townhouse, Green Mountain, Pine River, all the other roads first, because of the heavy traffic, and then do the side roads. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and Lenny will have a discussion with Evans Brothers.
Okay, I just want us to be on the same page that this is not me just going for a joyride. This is my kids having to make it to school. This has now become an issue with the school district, and it's relaying now back on me that my children can't make it to the school bus safely. So I did contact the transportation this morning. So I'm really hoping that this road will be done in the morning so my kids can make it to school safely.
Okay,
Thank you.
but I will also say, depending upon the type of weather, it may not get plowed due to ice conditions. So that's part of the way the contract and the description of work is presented, and Lenny will follow up with Evans Brothers around that to make sure we're getting out there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else on there?
No one else has their hand raised.
Okay, good. In the room. Lawrence?
Who's in charge of the investment policy?
The Board of Selectmen,
Board of Selectmen.
yes. And I believe, that should be posted. Do we have that up on our website?
I can check, I'm not sure.
Okay. If it's not up on the website, Lawrence, we'll get it up on the website. Anything else?
No, there was a comment made at the pre-bid meeting on the Bay Road culvert that I didn't think was appropriate. In the if I heard it right, told the bidders what the amount of money the town had for that project.
You want to address that?
Well, like I told you last night, I don't think he said we had the money because it's all contingent upon the town meeting. But
He said,
I think he said the estimate was, they estimated between 4 and 450 is the way I remember it.
I just,
And same here. That's what I remember too.
Because we didn't appropriate any money. We didn't have the money, so.
I know, but
And the engineer's aware of that.
it was like, you told the bidders how much money the town had for that project.
No,
If you get.
if you get that.
That is public knowledge because we've talked about it in BOS meetings and it was part of the CMA report. I believe.
Yeah.
So we've talked about that amount over and over here.
So. Anything else, Lawrence? Okay, anybody else?
I have one question on the investment policy. It does state that the treasurer should provide the board with a report, maybe quarterly. I think it stated you had that, and I would request you to do so because right now I'm looking at the year-end report and the numbers aren't matching other departments. So I feel like we're at the end end of the year and things could have been resolved earlier. And I know it's her first year, so maybe next year
Yep,
going
And
forward.
she's cleaning up a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
So can you send her a copy of the policy? And ask her if she can prep a quarterly report to send to us,
terrific.
so we'll have that,
Thank you.
so. And I did see some of that email interaction going back and forth, and I understand your close of books is gonna be different than her close of books,
Yeah.
depending upon when bills are paid, but the numbers shouldn't be that far off.
Right, my concern was, for example, the taxes didn't include penalties and prepaid taxes. So there's several $1,000s that are different than the tax collector. And then we don't make any disbursements outside of the manifest. So having over $200,000 in disbursements that I don't understand is really concerning to me. And it would be nice if the board at least knew it prior to town meeting. Because it's a concern, like,
I will see if we can get a report
okay,
soon,
all right,
like by next week, hopefully.
okay, cool, thank you.
All right. Good. Vicky,
Can I ask about?
Yeah,
something like that?
sure.
On the zoning officer?
Yeah.
What is the salary for assistant field inspector and who is that?
there is a proposed position to be added for next year, part-time, unknown body. We're having an issue right now with the volume of work that's coming in. Rebecca is not able to do a very low amount of hours over the course of a month, like 1 to 2 hours a month, driving around town and looking at the different things that need to be followed up on. She's dealing with a lot of court cases, and she's dealing with a lot of information and regular permit processes. Her volume has just gone up from an activity standpoint. So we've made the provision to basically put somebody on part-time to be able to handle some of this road work and follow-up that's not being done. Not enough time.
Right now, Vicky, David's doing a lot of that.
Huh?
David's doing a lot of that right now. When he's here. The assessor, David Hines. Not David Strauss, David Hines.
David knows
I
it too.
figured that.
And
David 1, David 2.
You don't have any more time to spend on anything.
so I kind of pointed that way. so-
Yeah.
Yeah,
The 7904 is what's been proposed for assistant that you asked for.
I'm sorry, what?
$7,900
Yeah, that's-
$7,904 is what's proposed.
Yes, I see that. The other thing is police overtime.
mhm.
What is that for?
Where we do not have a 24-hour a day coverage. So there are times when there's nobody in town except what's covered by sheriff's department, which is minimal to none, state police, which is minimal to none, because they're not even out all night now in both cases. So if there's an accident or if there's a domestic or whatever, and it's after hours, we have to pay overtime to the sergeant to come out and do that.
I'm just saying that the police budget is extremely high.
Not comparative to other towns.
Well, we're not
I understand.
another town.
We are looking at the activity levels in this town, and it's warranted under the activity levels. Look at some of the reports over the last few months we've asked to be produced to come in and take a look at it. You'll notice there's a drastic increase in the amount of activity going on in this town that's being documented, from motor vehicle stops to arrests to drug arrests. There's stuff happening that has not been happening for a very, very long time. And that's because we've properly staffed the department at this level to be able to provide the citizenry the coverage they want.
The K-9 expense,
Yes,
I thought that there was not supposed to be any K-9 expense.
there is a K-9 expense. There was never any discussions. There
What
wouldn't
was
be.
that? What's that for?
The K-9 that we have,
For what, to pay for what?
the dog and the upkeep of the dog. food. A lot of the food's donated. Medical care we get at cost, meaning the prescriptions only. We don't get charged to have any of the vet care. We just pay for the medical. But there are ongoing
I
costs.
thought I was under the understanding that that was not going to be, that it was donated, or is it Conway that?
Nope. So the dog came to us for $2,000. And originally the price tag for a dog like that was between $10,000 and $15,000. We just had an opportunity that the chief observed, and we took advantage of it. There has been training going on with that animal for certification and tracking, as well as drugs. He has passed the tracking certification, and he's been totally trained with drug sniffing, but he actually, to be physically certified, has to be part of a regional class to have that done, and there's not one scheduled yet. We are making drug arrests with that dog because we can document his training and we can document everything that's needed. And we are actually taking court cases into court right now for drugs based on the canine.
Also on the dog, Vicky did setting up a 501c3 for the dogs, so people make.
Well,
Donation.
I think Joe mentioned that.
Yeah.
He was good last time.
We're actually in the process of doing that right now. Vic. We think, based on Joe's previous experience in managing canines and his other departments, or the department, we believe there'll be enough donation money ultimately to take care of basically anything related to the dog. But we got to get it set up.
Winter road material. I see that it went from 2020 to 21, it went from 44 to 70,000. Do we know why that?
Yeah, you need the material.
Huh?
We needed the material, and we're using the material. We're putting down more gravel and other things on our roads than we have in the past. We've also used those lines to take care of culverts and other things that we need to replace. Green Mountain Road constructed, the paving on Green Mountain Road, a very large number of those culverts needed to be replaced all the way out through. Are you going to ask these tonight too, I hope?
Huh?
Are you going to ask these tonight too, I hope? Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
There was one on the treasurer.
Mhm.
Asking 73.3%.
No, she did not ask for it.
She didn't ask for
The
it.
selectmen basically looked at what it is taking to do the job the way it should be done. And if we were to pay a low wage, but at least a prevailing wage in the area, with the amount of hours it's being done, that's what it would cost. And the budget committee did not go along with that, as you can see on your paper.
Right.
They went with a partial increase, but not the full amount.
Right.
We will have much better documentation for next year's budget meeting to basically validate the request more closely than we've got it today.
Okay. And on the health administration, the health officer and the deputy. Is this a quote unquote stipend? Is it a salary? Is it an
Stipend.
hourly rate?
Stipend.
So if it's a stipend, why does it not say that? Wouldn't it say the same thing as like the fire department? When they get their stipend? And if this passes, does it stay as a paid position from then on?
Only if the town approves it. So the
Okay.
town annually, there's got to be a budget amount annually promoted, reviewed, agreed upon, voted on, or not.
Okay,
So. And I don't know the answer to your question on the actual, how it's coded on the sheet.
Right, because it just says health officer, and health officer deputy.
Yeah.
and It doesn't say whether it's
One of the things.
what
that-
it is.
Yeah, state of New Hampshire in the last legislative session passed a number of new regs relating to the requirements of towns regarding health officer related activities,
Mhm,
required training, reporting, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
mhm.
And there are a number of cases that we are basically looking at that involve time. That stipend will not come close to covering the time for either person in that position. And that's just based on the real world for the last 18 months.
And another thing that I noticed, there were some wording errors. I think that you wait to, because you've got a human society fee. for the bill.
That, tonight, we need to make sure that gets in there tonight. Thank you.
We get a few humans we put in.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was trying to be polite. And general assistance,
Mhm.
what is that?
We're
Is
required,
that-
we are required as a town to provide assistance if people meet criteria. And they have to apply for it. There's an application process, and if they are approved, then we are required to pay.
Okay, so if,
In other words, it's welfare.
huh?
It's welfare.
Okay. But I'm a little confused, what is assistance?
That's the
The
title,
$12,000.
that's the title of it.
Okay, so we have, it's not a payment to
Nope.
the person that
Nope.
has, is
Yeah,
that?
no, it would come out. So if the person, if we have somebody in town that makes an application and the application is approved, we will cut a check out of that account to pay for that particular expense.
Okay, but what I mean is that a paid position?
Mhm.
And is that the $12,000 is what
No,
she gets?
no, she
Why
only,
is that not?
she has an hourly rate, and then you can look at the budget to actual. So she only charges when she's dealing with someone that needs assistance, and it's relatively minimal. You know, she might spend an hour emailing someone an application, she gets it back, she might have to look into an agency that can help that person. She might have to call a fuel company to see if she can pay part of the bill so they can get another delivery, things like that.
Okay, so where does her position?
It's part of
come-
that 12,000, and when we put in the.
It's part of what?
It's part of that 12,000,
Oh, it is
Yeah,
part of this
right.
12,000.
and when we put in the actuals in QuickBooks, we separate it.
That's another one of the positions we are quite thankful the person is willing to take, because they are on call 24/7, 365 days a year.
Mhm.
And there are many times they get called out in the middle of the night where they've got to do activities related to their position. So it's not just daytime activities. It could be any time of the day or night.
The Meals on Wheels, we know how many people we have from Effingham?
But
I saw a report earlier in the year, but I do not know the answer to your
I
question.
can
Vicky.
provide you that report.
Okay.
I don't-
Tonight.
Meeting, if you look back at the budget meeting minutes, it's in our nonprofit meeting. Every one of those is in detailed amounts, Effingham, totals requested, totals spent, salary.
I'm sorry, where is it?
It's in the budget meeting that we did the nonprofits. We had a meeting for nonprofits. We detailed everything out for nonprofits.
Each nonprofit has to send in requests, except for Meals on Wheels, because it's a standard item.
They did send in,
They did send a request, they did send activity in, okay.
we asked for.
I don't think we're utilizing it enough based on the number of seniors we have in this town, but it is what it is.
Their report each month, Vicky, just gives the number of meals that they delivered. It doesn't-
Okay, so it doesn't say like how many people
Right,
get it.
It's
It's just how many
probably-
meals are.
I'm guessing maybe between 8 and 15.
They
It's
did
not
list
many.
how many Effingham.
Yeah, they
They
did
did
it,
list how many. were
yeah.
Effingham.
but I don't
It did.
remember what it
I'll see
was.
if I can get that for you.
Sure. As
Just
far
a minute, hold on. Go ahead, Vicky.
I'm all set.
All set? Good, thank you, David.
Related to what she was saying, with the welfare or assistance.
General assistance.
Isn't that required of the town by law to provide?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So,
It's an RSA. If we can't get away from that particular line item, we have to fund it, period.
so somebody's got to do it.
Right. And if there's not enough money in the bottom line of that budget, we have to take it out of the general budget of the town.
And that's one of the line items you're allowed to overspend. That and legal. So,
Do we have anything out there saying it's available to you?
No. We
Is that how it's
try and
like-
coach the different nonprofits that we have, that we provide assistance to every year. A lot of them cover the various things that are required of the general assistance. So there's an education component that goes on with, here's a resource for you. You can take advantage of it, contact them, and you can get help. So that's all part of the way that it's managed.
And this person gives how many out? I know she.
It's dependent upon
I know
volume.
she's gotta be available, but
It's
when she's actually doing,
totally dependent upon what the issue is and what the case is.
okay.
There's no set hours saying,
Right,
you know,
but she reports what she has
oh,
done.
yes,
to-
yeah,
Okay,
yep, we have to sign off on it.
okay.
yeah, she puts a time sheet in.
And then whatever expense might be, we get the detail of that. Okay. David, did you have anything else?
I'm all set.
Okay. Mr. Strauss, anything for tonight's meeting?
No, just on the general assistance, I mean, over the years and in our budget meeting, we highlighted on the general assistance that various times we tried to get salary separate and it wasn't viable to do it because of what you said. It varied too much and we didn't want to set a set salary thinking that we're gonna pay that when actually you may not. So we found out through the years that 12,000 figure is a viable figure for our town, including what they do. So that's why we combined them. We did have it separate at one point in my career, and then we just didn't want someone to think that $3,000 is always gonna go to salaries, because a lot of times you may only spend $250, or you may spend $2,100, but it varied so much between the calls that they received that it wasn't viable to do it. And we didn't want them thinking they would be able to spend 3,000 even if they weren't doing that.
Okay,
So we put it back into the general fund.
And there are an awful lot of citizens of this town that utilize these nonprofits that we provide funding to every year. And then they, as David just mentioned, in that budget committee meeting, there's actually a document they have to complete in detail, attach their financials and how much of it applies to Effingham. So it's really, really detailed on each of the different services.
Mhm.
But when you look at them, it's like a lot of the stuff is funded through those kinds of things. So a lot of the need is funded through those kinds of services. Okay. Before we get done, I'd like to make an introduction of our new fire chief. And JT, why don't you come up and take a seat right here so you can be on camera? So over the last couple of months, the Board of Selectmen hired Municipal Resources, Inc. to do a applicant search, a candidate search, as Randy Burbank gave us his notice last year that he's all done as of March 31st, 2022, so right after the town meeting. And we basically used MRI to basically do that search. They have a whole division related to just fire services. It's an independent review. They do the interviews. They do the review panel interviews. They give us a report of here's the candidates that made it, and here's the candidates in the order that we would suggest you hire them, interview and hire them in. We've done that process. JT was the candidate that we chose to go with. And we asked him to come in this morning just to kind of do a brief overview of what his background and criteria are. Because he's going to be working with Randy from now through the end of March in the transition of the chief. And then hopefully Randy will stay on in a capacity beyond April 1. So JT, give us a little background.
Morning, everybody. So as Mr. Fuller said, my name is JT Harmon. I live down in Rochester. I currently work full-time up in the valley for Action Ambulance, who's a contracted service provider for this town and several other in the county. I'm a full-time operations supervisor for Action right now. So I have a pretty flexible schedule with them, but it puts me up here in the valley quite a bit. I do intend to move up here closer to Effingham within the next few months. I have some background in the fire service. I've been on Lebanon, Maine for the past 11 or 12 years. Ever since the day I was old enough to be a junior, I went in and put my application in. That was a department that my father was a part of, and he brought me up into it. So the fire service has always been a part of my family and my life. So been through a lot of different positions in Lebanon. I've held just about every rank, including interim chief for a little bit while they were looking for a new full-time chief. So I've dealt with some of the different things the fire chief has to deal with. And that was a particularly difficult department to work with. So, you know, I've been through some of the rough stuff, the recruitment, the retention, things like that. Some of the things that I really think Effingham is going to benefit from. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to serve the town, and I hope that I can make some good changes for the fire department and for you people.
Thank you.
Welcome to Effingham.
Thank you very much.
While we've got JT here, are there any questions from the audience?
Why are you looking at me?
No, I just happened to come around that way, Vicky. I didn't know if you might have something.
Not right now.
Okay.
Is there anybody online that might have a question?
I'm not seeing any hands or chat.
And I'll be updating the website shortly with my contact information, and I'll put my cell phone on my email. So feel free to call me or email me anytime.
You might not want to put your cell phone.
Depends on what he wants to do. That's his call.
I'm happy to answer any time of the day or night.
So
Uh-oh.
Don't put it out there.
he does know what he's getting into. We did have some discussion, so it's like, okay. Yep. All right.
My name mentioned.
Probably.
Thanks.
Okay.
Wrong Vicky.
Thank you for coming in this morning.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, again, welcome on board.
Thank you very much.
So, and you're working with Randy today.
I am. And you have time for non-public after this.
We do. That's
Perfect.
actually the next item.
Beautiful.
So, is there any other questions or comments for JT or the board? Okay, then that being said, we will be entering a non-public. And did you physically put this in here for me? Did you know the
No,
RSA number? Okay,
no. But this one's for personnel. That's 99% of our.
yeah, I'm gonna guess that's what that is. Okay, make a motion, you want a non-public under RSA 91-8:3, subsection 2, subsection A, which deals with employee-related matters.
Second that.
All those in favor, full aye?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks.
Yeah, it was just a video you unplugged.
Non-public.
Second.
All those in favor, full aye?
Aye.
We are going to recess.
Do you want to meet with Rebecca?
We're gonna recess to non-public until a later time this morning. And in the meantime, we're going to have the zoning enforcement officer.
Okay, you're live.
I'm glad to see reports now open under 4.5 pages.
Me too. As a graphic designer, I hate things that go into 2 pages. I'm always looking at legal letters from lawyers that I'm thinking, you know, if you just spread that margin out another 1/4 of an inch, you could have the signature on the same page.
You can't charge us. So I know Lenny had a question after reviewing your monthly.
Okay, I've got a copy of my monthly in front of me and my little one, and ready to answer any.
The very last one, very bottom one. A 40x8.
It's interesting. I can give you the link to it. It's actually like a storage container, but it's a company that takes basically storage containers, metal
Containers.
and converts them into homes.
Yep.
So it's fully whatever. But it's like a hybrid between a mobile home and a built to suit, whatever. But it's gonna, it's gonna have full septic and on a full foundation and everything like that.
Well,
I mean, I looked at it every way from Sunday thinking, this is really weird. Should I be allowing this? But they sent me the site, they sent me the drawings, the diagrams and everything. And, all I can say is it's something I hadn't seen before.
There's actually a large company, I think they're out in the Midwest, that does that, but they build big houses out of it. They
Yeah.
stack containers, they put them in rotation, they cut holes and doors in them. And they make the whole house out of storage containers.
I have a friend who has designed a Shakespeare's globe out of storage containers. And it's movable. He can bring the storage container globe anywhere to a city or whatever and set it up. So yeah, they're a very versatile, useful thing. And this is I guess it's a variation on someone getting a mobile home. It's probably more expensive and better built.
Yeah.
So,
Be Effingham first.
well, yeah, and as I said, I looked at it very, very closely and had them send me to the site, and then I couldn't download pictures from the site, so I got back to them and I said, you better email me some diagrams and everything. And they dotted all the i's and crossed all the t's. So it's a first, but it's maybe part of the way we're going for some level of affordable housing. Who knows?
I just thought it was odd, 40/8.
Yeah, I thought it was odd too. And they put the application in as a 40/8 metal structure, but they had the septic thing right there. And I wrote them back and I said, what kind of structure are we talking about? Then when I got all the details, I actually have an email from them authorizing me to change the application to 40/8 structure, 1-bedroom home. They've got a 2 or 3 bedroom septic system in it. It's a one bedroom home, so.
But that's where if they decide based on these other companies that do this.
Yeah.
This could be like the first part of it, and they'll look at doing an addition.
The old double wide.
The article I read about a year ago.
Yeah.
Had pictures, and it actually showed a 4-story.
Really,
They were 2 up, and then they were lateral covered part way.
an entire generation that was brought up on Legos.
And the whole house was made out of it, and it was all connected. And
Well, I'd be really interested for a third-party assessment of comparison of these units to mobile homes and the pros and cons, other than the fact that a mobile home can, get towed over the road, but otherwise these get towed over the road. But, in terms of how well they're built and all that, I mean, there are these enormous regulations in place for mobile homes, for manufactured housing at the federal level and at the state level. And so you wonder whether this is a workaround to a similar kind of thing. I mean, there's no way of knowing without us having a building code locally. All we can do is say, hope it meets the state building code. And
I think they're just storage containers modified, right?
I assume so.
I've seen that on TV, I don't know. Some fool show Cindy watches, Cabin Masters or something, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
what it is, but, yeah, they build cabin out of these storage trailers.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a solidly well-built thing to start with, and for all I know, there are various lines of them that are, I was gonna say small, medium, and large, but I would say more, modest, fancy, and somewhere in between, and that you get the highest end storage trailer that, it's like renting a storage pod. You can get a cheapy one, or you can get one that's guaranteed no rodents, and you can get them insulated and all that, so it's probably the same kind of thing.
It will be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're able to tour that.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
back and
It would become spring, and by then I think we'd all be feeling a little safer. So,
And they did have a 3-bedroom house there, that's why the septic is 3-bedroom.
that was what burned.
Yeah.
Or what went down.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, but I think this was a new septic.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think they gave a new number. But maybe I didn't check it. I checked to make sure it was valid, but I didn't go any further than that.
So I didn't think they did anything there after the house, but I would clean it up.
Well, seemed to,
It'll be interesting.
yeah, it will be.
Okay, answer that question.
With some of the court stuff you got going on, house.
Oh, it's so hard in the winter. So, Dave is supposed to be doing an inspection of Susie. And, because I've done inspections and I've taken pictures, and now there's a court order inspection that's with the owner there, and he's supposed to set it up because he's got more flexible hours, you know, he's available 4 days a week to meet with Susie at some point. But so far, I think he hasn't been able to get a hold of the guy in order to meet him there to go over it. What I want to make sure is that Dave gets to go inside the shed that's there. So there are a bunch of overlapping issues. There's a building on the property. There's too many RVs, and there's an application in for an RV permit, which is irrelevant because the RV isn't being used. And there's an application in for the shed that has never had a permit for it because it wasn't a shed. It was a tiny house they were building for someone else and was supposed to go off the property. And then the person who was buying it reneged on it. And then I actually put them in touch with someone else who was looking for a tiny house, thinking, ooh, you know, we'll get that, you know, solve a lot of problems. Someone's looking for. No, that didn't happen. And then they then shuffled in a permit asking for a permit, since it wasn't going away, asking for a permit for a shed. And I'm saying, well, you were building it as a tiny house. I mean, it's a shed, you know, it's got propane tanks and double asbestos chimneys and, you know, I mean, granted, that could be a shed, but let's find out. So that was, so I said, this is what puts it squarely in Dave's camp, is to see what that is and how it should be assessed.
Right.
And at the same time, he can be another set of eyes looking at the condition of it and meeting the court order to go there with the property owner. But I'm afraid there's so much snow that he'll be able to see the shed, but the most we'll be able to do for the junkyard is just put it off a little bit longer. I mean, these guys kept saying, we're gonna get a dumpster, we're gonna get a dumpster, and I gave them, you know, miles and miles of rope to get the dumpster, and then, you know, I mean, it's, yeah, my background is theater and get stuff done, and you know, you move it all, you move it again, and you move it again. And they've got so much crap on their property, they got a 6-yard dumpster. It's like, it would take them 20 years with a 6-yard dumpster, living there, putting stuff in it every day. So it's like, I thought they were gonna get a 20-yard and get stuff out of there. Anyway,
And I know for some people, it's a total inconvenience and there's a hardship. But we're gonna apply this equitably and worry.
Yeah. I know.
And we're gonna have to push some tighter timelines than we've run in the past.
And I think the thing now is that that the cycle hasn't worked well for us because we've ended up in court in the fall and then we've gone into winter. And so we'll have to have a, you know, can I say maybe a, you know, an April 1st start date to lean on everyone. You know, the roads won't be posted by then, you know, so people can get dumpsters in or whatever. And we'll just reinstitute the deadlines. But the difficulty is we've done that in the past. It's taken this many months to get it to court. And then, you know, I do love our judge, but then, you know, the plaintiff comes in and says, oh, I'm gonna do this. And she said, oh, great, you're all gonna work together. Go home and work together. You know, and then we drag on 2-3 more months with nothing happening. And then you're back into the fall and the winter, so.
Our court system could work really more.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah. One thing I might suggest that we might consider, we haven't ever fined anybody. And you might want to check with the attorney and see what mechanism you want to use to start levying fines. It's not, you know, I send the notice of violation and I say, you know, we're gonna, basically I say that you know, this is in the hands of the attorney. And they will do this, that, and the other, and then I hand off the files, all the photos I have and the communication, everything to the attorney. But that would also be at the point where you, as the administrator, could start finding something. Because we might get a little bit more hop to it. And I can understand the resistance to that, but I also think that in the years that I've been here, especially hearing complaints from people that nothing gets done, I can't levy the fine. All I can do is pass it on to the Board of Selectmen.
And did we have fines covered in our?
Yeah. And it's right with the letter I always copy you on says, 275 a day. So all you might need is a conversation with the attorney saying, what's the mechanism here? How do I send the bill, as it were? Because, for instance, I didn't send notice of violation to Boyle's Market, and I didn't send notice of violations to this guy down on the river. I did cease and desist. Boyle's folks, are going through the process now, so it doesn't seem like it was late date for me to say that you're in violation for not having gotten the permit you were supposed to. You maybe drop the ball in process there. And maybe the same with Randy Nolan, when he didn't get on the stick and get the permits that he needed, and he kept saying, well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I should have said, well, I should have ceased and desist, but you're now in violation, we're gonna start finding you, then you get paid for it. And that's something that really, we need to be act cooperatively on, but I would think that we should, you're right, do it equitably, but we need to be careful that we're not all of a sudden perceived as just, the bad guys who are finding everyone. That
In
we-
the initial stages, it's gonna feel like that.
Yeah.
Because we haven't done anything for so many years.
Right. And I would say that the initial way to do it would be with these folks that have dragged on so long. So that what the message you send is, you've exhausted every path. We've gone to court, you've said you're gonna work with us, you don't work with us, we've gone to court again, you said you're gonna work with us, you don't work with us, you say you can't afford a dumpster, you say you can't afford this, you say you can't afford that. Well, you really can't afford this piece of property if you can't afford this. And you guys figure out at what point you
I
come
don't
in.
disagree, the stuff that's currently on the books we're gonna have to deal with. but
Yeah.
Moving forward with new stuff.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure we're managing the timeline for 30 days, but people aren't responding.
It's not, at the 30, I mean, I have 30 days to issue a permit, but that's for a residential property.
No, I'm talking about some of your warning letters. And
Oh, okay,
letters.
yeah. Yeah.
Some of these things with 3, 4, 5 months between, it's like, we can't, we're gonna type, once you get to the point where they issue that letter.
Yeah.
In second, third, it needs to be type timeline.
I've waxed and waned on that. There've been periods in the job where I've kept right on it. And then there've been periods in the time when job when so much other stuff, the junkyard stuff is just mounted up and other stuff. Although I did finally get Newbigin done. He put in a drawing, he put a gate across the second driveway. And so, yeah, that's one I can cross off. And I don't know what's happening with the Enos property. I think she just dropped the ball because evidently the house was an absolute mess, toxic and whatever. So I gave her sort of email heads up as my end of January thing. I mean, that's basically a lot of what I did in January, is to follow up on all these things and make sure that the letters and the follow-ups are up to date. And now I've got, we've got the what's up here from, the 4 that are from Owens White is in process. But the 4 that I don't, let's see, DeGay, about. So it's really these 2, Lawrence Edwards and Murphy and Travers. We're being taped, right? I probably should do
Yep.
names.
Yep, that's right. I recommended maybe Rebecca number her list and then talk based on number.
Okay. Anyway, a couple of the what's up that were sent mid-December, that I would have done a follow-up mid-January, but given the holidays and everything, I try not to be too nasty. So what I'll be doing this week and next is I'll be checking everybody on my list and seeing who needs another letter and what letter it is.
Okay.
So,
Good. Yeah, I understand we're gonna play catch up a little bit with more of the books.
well, and it's a little interesting.
Yep.
So,
I don't have a problem finding people that aren't working with us, working with you, keep dragging us on. I don't have a problem at all. I'd start finding them right now.
well,
Let
then
me reach out to Matt.
Yeah.
you reach out to Matt.
Process.
Why don't I do the way and I haven't done it in a while because there's really been no activity on the junkyard. I used to do a status report on the junkyard, which was a separate email to Matt with you guys copied on it. I was thinking that what I could do that's separate from this monthly report, I could do a status report before the end of February of where we were with everyone that would allow a little bit more detail. And that could be the numbered list because Dave renumbers this list for the permits that are issued for his accounting method, and we could end up with 14 million different sets of numbers. He starts his numbering system April 1st because that's the beginning of his year. But I've toyed with the idea of separating the list, and then I thought, no, this master list solved a lot of problems because I had a notebook with a permit list, and then I had another, violation list, and this was the way of seeing everything that was going on. But I could do sort of a mid-month update, third week of the month update. And that would keep me a little bit more on task for those follow-up letters. If that would work for everybody.
Well, I don't think we've been over communicated enough in public that we're working on different kinds of issues.
Right, and again, you are the enforcers. If I can give you a little bit more detail, whether we're in court with them or whether I'm just in a conversation with them, then what I can do is I can say, well, I just wrote and telephoned so-and-so and said, you really do have to get a permit for your animal pens. Or we're gonna have to give a notice of violation. I'm just gonna give you warning that these lists are going to the Board of Selectmen and we've been very whatever, but we are gonna, the fines are not a joke. And figure out how that wording is.
Finding them, it was not for, my intent wasn't to penalize them, it was trying to get them to goad them into action to do what they're supposed to do.
Well, and I know, I don't quite understand how so.
They get a goading with her letter, but then maybe you need to work with us to do an invoice out of QuickBooks. Once they start
That's
getting.
what I want to basically
Yeah.
find out from Matt what kind of there's a process, and I know we can make modifications along the way with the process.
Here's
I
a
really want something that it's as simple as we can make it, and yet accomplish the task.
Here's a classic example that is absolutely the lowest bar on the ladder. You have a property where a barn burned down, so you have an existing slab. And the property owners have built a bunch of ramshackle animal pens on top of the slab. And I probably would have just ignored them, except the neighbor complained. So I thought, well, the simplest path is to ask them to get a permit for it. For $30, those pens will be permitted, and if they move them around on the slab or rebuild them or change them anything, I'll just look the other way because they will have gotten a permit to put some animal pens on top of an existing cement slab. That seemed like it was pretty simple. And I stopped and spoke to them, and they're very difficult anti-government people, but I had a good conversation saying, trying to work with you. And they said, oh, we're gonna build a real thing, and we're gonna do this and have a greenhouse or whatever, so we're gonna take those down. And I said, oh, okay, well, let me go. Goes on, drive by, they're still there. Finally, in my December cleanup, January cleanup, I write to them and I say, listen, since you haven't moved the pens, the simplest thing would be for you to get a permit for them. I closed a partially filled out permit application. Nothing, nada. And it's like, what word don't they understand? What, and this is such a waste of all of our time for such a small infraction. And I'm sure you hear my frustration in having started the ball rolling. I can't just say, oh, well, never mind,
No.
which is what
And I would
my
have wished,
predecessor might have done.
when you saw it earlier, you knew it didn't meet zoning. I wish you'd started it there, rather than just saying, I'm gonna look away for the moment.
Well,
Because-
but that's true, but when someone says, I'm about to move that. Yeah, I know, live and learn, I suppose. I mean, but anyway, that's, you know, that's the classic example
Okay.
of what happens. So now we're in the position of saying, okay, this person won't even pay $30 for a building permit to save her ass. Why, you know, getting blood from a stone from someone who already hates government, already thinks they should be able to do whatever they want on their property and all that. And I'm just trying to, you know, as I said in my letter I sent about RV permitting, I've spent a lot of time in these 15 years getting to know some of the people in town that don't want you on their property and don't want you coming around. And to say, listen, I'm not the enemy. I'm just trying to, you know, we're just trying to get stuff into compliance, and I'm trying to make it easier on you. You know, it's like the gentleman down the road with the little log cabin, you know, blind to the fact that we are making things work for him by going through the house, condemning it, and therefore there's only one livable residence on the property. Case closed. It's got a working system, septic system, you know, is he gonna make it easy for us? No, he's gonna start quoting the Declaration of Independence at me.
You know, everybody's got their own beliefs, and that's A-okay. From a standpoint of managing it from a town standpoint, if people want to cooperate, great, we'll work with them.
Yeah.
But if they don't, we'll institute the policies and procedures and follow-ups to basically, if you're gonna take them to court, we take them to court.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, I think that I like the idea of turning around what was my sort of monthly update on the junkyards into a monthly update. Let me run that monthly update on problems.
The animal pens, when was the last time you had contact there?
I could check my site visit book to see the last time I drove by them. But
I mean, I drove by there last week.
you know, down on Bonnyman Road, you know, the place I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's just Letto's accident was 8/26.
oh yeah, that must have missed going in. It must be a note on the form, because I sent her a, I've got a separate folder of the copies of the letters I've sent and stuff, so I'm not taking stuff out of the room as much. So that didn't make it in my report when I wrote her, called her in. But it was December or January that I did. I've got a book that I've kept for my site visits since like 2010, so I can go back and look when I visited a property, when I've done the drive-by or a permit visit or whatever. I just wouldn't at the moment, but I could check back, and I'm pretty sure I went by right before snow got heavy. Yeah, sort of at the end of when they did I think I did a last drive around down through there right before the predicted big snowstorm in December. I came through Wilkinson Swamp and up Molly Philbrook and then down
Yeah, you're good.
Bonnyman, do that loop that you can't do on the winter roads. I did it one last time before that.
Yeah.
So,
Would it help for me to talk to him, you think? or-
you know those folks?
Yeah.
They seem nice enough, they're just a little defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, provided you're comfortable
Oh,
with
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I'm all for a little, one more slightly more, thinking, from slightly higher up intervention. And feel free to say, I believe Rebecca sent you an application form, but, if you can't locate it, she'll get you another one, but we're down to the wire here. And there may be, for certain people that may eliminate the need to go a legal route, which would
I'm
be,
okay with it.
would be excellent. And
All right,
when we see the complement of the new board, we'll have an idea of, other either approaches or individuals that might have a personal relationship or whatever. So, okay.
Rebecca, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
No guarantees, but I will talk to them.
Safe travels.
Well, I'm here till 6.
Yay, I'll talk to you later.
Hey.
How's it going?
You ready?
Airport Station 1, you.
Huh?
Airport Station 1, you.
No. They were just getting no following. I left this morning.
They're doing Station 2, when we pulled in
Yes.
this morning. They look through Station 1. Just trim by there, I didn't applaud you.
Let me know if it doesn't get done. I gotta call him on other issues, so. He had somebody
Yeah.
blue block here, I don't know.
You have a
who that-
copy of the road contract?
What's that?
Do you have a copy of the winter road contract?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the kids aren't getting to school or,
Well, he was a 2-hour delay this morning, so
yeah,
he probably took that into consideration. But when I come by, it wasn't plowed.
Yeah.
Okay, you're recorded or no?
yeah.
Okay. I think we have the other number. Motion adjourned.
Do you want to see those minutes or not?
Make a motion to seal this.
What's that?
All in favor for that?
I,
Thank you, Irish. Motion adjourned.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, JT.
And just, if you can,